Welcome everybody. It's good to see some of you from the previous sessions as well. So thank you so much for joining in today, and it's such a pleasure and an honor to be in the company of graceful Dipika Trehan, if I may say so. So Dipika has been, championing women leadership as a mentor, as an influencer, and as a crusader of women well-being and development. So her work, just to give you a small introduction, her work has, been applauded by Miss Sherry Blair, and Deepika has been promoting corporate sisterhood, and this is, one word which I really liked from your profile, and I could so resonate with it. So she's been promoting corporate sisterhood through a flagship women development program called Corporate Diva. So her personal story, as a woman, as a daughter, as a mother, and as a wife, has been quite inspiring. And today we are going to explore that journey. Today, we are going to talk about how she chose to challenge the status quo, how she built these two respectable organizations that she's running, and the role that the resilience, the whole element of resilience played in this journey. So welcome, Dipika. So honored, so pleased to have you here today.
Completely my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. So Dipika, my first question to you, and this is again around your journey, which has been so inspiring. And you had an interesting journey from a woman who had multiple career aspirations to being a caretaker of or being a mother to two lovely kids, to now managing and championing a bigger cause of uplifting women around the world. So how has this journey been for you, and what kind of lessons you have gained, you have derived from this journey that you would want to share with all of us here?
Lovely question. Good evening, everybody here. Thanks for joining in for this. So you said that I take care of now two lovely kids. Lovely is a question mark, right? Because being teenagers, they've got their own minds now. But it's been quite a journey. As you rightly said that, I was a very ambitious young woman. And it's been a journey of close to almost 2 decades now, where, after my MBA, I was into HR, and I was working with an organization, and things were going really well. And I wasn't somebody who didn't have clarity in what I wanted to do. I was pretty focused. I pretty much had my goals clear. I pretty much had my roadmap clear at a very, very young age. But and that's something which is a key message right at the start here, that no matter how much clarity you have, right, life happens. And you cannot overrule what life brings to you. So literally, when I was climbing up my corporate ladder, from joining the workforce to doing pretty well for myself to leading on to management position, and then there came a time where there was a sudden shift in my life, and I got married, and we had to move out of the country, and which led to something very unplanned. It led to me being on a forced sabbatical. And in the journey, I had 2 kids. We moved literally poles apart. We were in South Africa for 3 years, then 5 years in Moscow. And so life happened, and then sabbatical happened, which was completely something that I couldn't even foresee or forget and envisage. But then, life continues. And what we do not realize, especially as women, is that whenever there is a pause, we hugely underrate that pause. We hugely devalue that pause, as if though we're not adding any value, not to our ecosystem, not to our own selves. And we just I went through it. I was in a total lack of self-identity. I thought, where is that ambitiousness gone? What has happened to all my degrees that, one really literally like a, you ran that race of doing well at and in your colleges, and coming up with great scores and all of that. What happened to that drive? Where was I? What is my identity? What is the purpose that I'm solving? And all those questions of self-doubt come into being. But then what one doesn't realize, which today on the hindsight I realize, is that at every step there is immense value addition that happens, especially when you're thrown out of your comfort zone. There are numerous life skills that you get to learn. Coming from the armed forces, my father was in the armed forces. So, today we have fancy terms like diversity, inclusion, adaptability, and all of that. That was a part of the growing DNA. Every 18 months, 2 years, 2.5 years, we had to shift base. We were in north, south, east, west of the country. We had to acclimatize ourselves with the cultures. There were certain, when we were posted in the northeast, there were language issues. So we didn't realize, but when I actually had to move out of India, that was literally a gene pool that I was carrying with me, where South Africa language-wise was still okay. But when we moved to Russia, and I'm now talking about a decade and a half ago, when we moved to Russia, it wasn't a very English-friendly country. They were still speaking a lot in Russian. And for me to, I was an accompanying spouse. So my husband, through the office, would get interpreters, and he would get, people managing the language barrier for him. But here I was with two little kids. To go grocery shopping was a challenge because you could read nothing. And that's where, I learned the language. I started speaking in Russian. And then I had this whole boxed perception of, them being very cold. They're not too open, not too friendly. But then the moment I crossed the language barrier, I realized that it was the language that couldn't communicate or did not sensitize me to what they actually were. They were quite helpful. They were quite friendly, and then parallelly, I was working, with the Indian embassies abroad, contributing whatever little skills I brought to the table at that time. And I kept myself upskilling. I didn't consciously realize it then. But then when I got back to India, I started taking up projects. I started to restart my career. And then as soon as I was about to, my reset button had pressed and things were going hunky-dory. And that's when we moved, after 5 years in Mumbai, to Bangalore. And yet again, I was in a space where I again had to redefine myself, again had to restart. And, one really didn't know what my purpose was and all of that. And I remember when we had just recently moved into Bangalore, I was talking to my husband about, again, a restart kind of a thing. And he said, you know what? You've traveled enough. You've seen the world enough. Look within, you'll find a story, work around that, because what you've gained, very few have. And I was quite nasty in replying to him. I actually replied to him, I'm not a storybook or a novel that you take me from one place to the other and you open and you have a chapter to read. But you know what? I did have a chapter to read. I did go through a transformation journey. I did go to huge amount of cross-cultural sensitization, my own growth and development. And that's where I actually started off with, and I had been through a health journey as well. That's where got me started off on the Health of Women Forum, and then led on to Corporate Diva, which is, an upskilling and support platform for women at work, today addressing to the entire life cycle of a woman professional, right from corporate readiness to emerging women leaders, to senior women leaders, to restarting women, and to women entrepreneurs. And where did all that skill come from? That core skill treasure box comes from my varied experiences, which at that time I thought was nothing at all, So I think this whole thing of how the journey began and every journey has a story to tell. Every journey has one unique value that it brings to the table. What you've got to do is to just sit back when things don't happen your way. Because now I believe that there is a bigger power that does put you in the place where you belong to be. And had you not gone through the lows in life, had you not gone through the failures, had I not gone through that whole thing of self-doubt and where was I, what was I doing, I wouldn't have been able to relate to the work that I do today. And the work in the first place wouldn't have ever taken birth, because I wouldn't have ever felt the lack of a support group of corporate sisterhood, right? So I think in your deepest failures and in your deepest lows definitely lies something that you have to latch onto and leverage. It's just a matter of time when you just take a deep breath and understand and go behind, go back. And when you go travel that journey, it is almost like, a supreme power putting the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together to get you to where you belong to be. And that could be different from what you planned to be. In my case, it's always been different than what I planned to be.
Lovely. And, this story is so powerful when we talk about it, but I'm sure in that whole process when this was happening, it must have demanded so much of resilience from you, so much of that willingness to just be there and keep going, like you mentioned. So, what lessons did you pick up around resilience in that phase, and anything that we all can take back from that journey?
Lovely. I love this about resilience. Let me tell you, I wasn't born a saint. I still am not a saint. Uh, I do land up in situations of chaos, right? But that time was chaos to the power of infinity. And I wasn't resilient. I had times where I broke down. I had times where I needed help. I needed support. And in this entire journey of resilience, what I've realized is that, help is just round the corner. Most of the times, we don't seek help. We don't ask for help, especially women and girls. We kind of love wearing that supergirl, superwoman cape. I can handle it all. I can manage it all. But you've got to come out of that cape, because and that's the work that I do even today, that so many women I come across who are wearing that superwoman cape and giving out a message that they can handle it all, and ultimately crumbling under the pressure and expectations that they've set for their own selves. So the first thing in terms of resilience, my learning has been that communicate, transparently tell what you're going through. Be very, you got to, you talk about today, you talk about empathetic leadership and the human side of business and all of that. I think all of that starts with self. And this whole thing of resilience is, again, there was a recent seminar that I was in, and I said that, no matter where, and especially young students, young people, getting onto their careers and starting their professional journey, no matter where you are, you will kind of come across organizations that you feel belonged to or not belonged to, and change of jobs, change of roles, and all of that. But forever, for your life, you're going to be the CEO of self. And you have to manage that company with the right personal brand, with the right resilience, with the right management system, and with the right team and the right board of directors. So, imagine yourself as the organization to start with, right? Build a support group around you. And you don't have to, I can't say I've been blessed with a support group right from the word go. I come from the armed forces where every 3 years we were out, 2 years we were out. I've never had, those childhood chuddy buddies kind of friends or support group. Wherever I have landed up, I have been conditioned to create a support system. So ask for help, look around, a lot of women grapple with the fact that there is too much on them, or professionals grapple with that thing of how do they balance, there is just so much. And I was coaching this young lady at work, and they've been married for about 8-9 years, and she said that I've always got up early in the morning and served that cup of coffee. I wish someday I get served a cup of coffee, and I was like, so what, have you ever asked for it?
Mm.
She said, no, I thought I was always meant to do that. And I said, who decided that for you? So sometimes we are harsh on our own selves. We set expectations on our own self, and then we crumble under that expectation. And after that coaching session is when she went back, and very simple to do now. This is not rocket science. She just spoke to her husband and she said that, can I get a cup of coffee tomorrow morning prepared by you? I don't, I'd like to take a break and I don't want to get out of bed early in the morning. Can I be served a cup of coffee? And you know what? He was just glad to do that. So something that she's carried for 8 years inside her was just an ask away. So another critical aspect of building resilience is also having your ask clear. Whatever bothers you, and that's where the essence of communication comes into being. That communicate. You don't always have to be rosy, and you don't always have to be goody to communicate all good things. We're not social media. This is real life. So you've got to communicate the good, the bad, the ugly. And at the back of your mind, have an expectation of hearing a no. But I always say that if you don't ask, there is 100% chance of a no. But if you ask, there is at least 50% chance of a yes. Why don't you leverage that 50%? And the third being that I think I've learned it the hard way. As I said, I was ambitious. I wanted to run the race. I had big dreams and things like that. But one has got to give time sometime. We often hear that, if things don't go right, just take a deep breath. And we often mock about it that, okay, take a deep breath. But trust you me, just a sit back, just a deep breath in, and just a sense of it's beyond me. I cannot control it all. I will navigate through it. Let me just go with the flow for a while without trying too hard to go against the flow. And then while you're in that journey of going with the flow is when you have those conversations from within, you have that communication from within, you gain clarity. And when you gain clarity is when you speak out with clarity. And when you speak out with clarity is when you communicate effectively. And when you communicate effectively, you definitely have a 50% chance of things turning out in your favor. So that's how the process is. I repeatedly say that, I can today say that. I couldn't say that 17 years ago, where if somebody said, trust the process, I would have said XYZ and just said that, it's just a cliche. But I've lived through it. Trust the process. It is adding value to you, which is exclusively for you, and build onto it. Don't crumble under it. What can you do best? I mean, I could have fret all my life in Russia and be, kind of tearing apart my husband's hair, saying that, where have you got me? I can't communicate. The temperatures are freezing and all of that. But I went out and learned the language. I went out. Each time I would land up in a foreign country, I would just go to the embassy and say, hi, I'm Dipika Trehan. This is my educational background. Currently not looking for paid work. I'll be happy to work pro bono. Here are the skills that I bring to the table. And please do invite me for all the cultural programs. And that's where networking happened. That's where value addition happened. That's where I gained so much perspective. I don't think a cubicle would have ever given me that. So resilience is also about self-discovery. You've got to discover yourself. You've got to just put yourself out, your bare self out in the open and unapologetically. Sometimes life, as I said, happens. It's beyond your control. So you just put yourself out unapologetically because you didn't tailor make that circumstance for yourself. You've been put into it. So you navigate through it.
So I was actually reading one of your interviews. I think this is some 2-3 years ago. I believe it was on your LinkedIn page, and in that you said, I constantly keep shaking hands with challenges, but the rewards have been beyond bounds, something to that extent. And I think that's so powerful. So those like you said, sometimes trusting the flow is so difficult. And I have seen that in my journey as well, that there's this natural tendency to be on top of the things, that you should have everything controlled, like everything should be in your control. And sometimes it's not the case. It's just that when you want to control something, it just runs away from you. Situations, people, and sometimes it's okay to just let it be the way it is and unfold what happens beyond that. So powerful, could so resonate with it.
No,
Thank you.
honestly, Minu, I mean, like you rightly said, I mean, I shake hands with challenge every single day.
Yeah.
Whatever I say I cannot do, or I will not be able to do, or I will not do, that's not where I want to go. There is a power up there who listens to it and say, okay, I'm going to make you do that now. So it's become a joke in the house itself that the moment I say that, um, I'm very happy in this and I don't want to move beyond, right? It's literally like God saying, knock, knock, I heard that. And the next day something will happen which completely throws me off gear. I'll give you several examples. Two of them I can just go on my mind right now. The first is when I established this whole thing called corporate diva, right? Anybody who listened to it, anybody, they said, you kidding me? I mean, you know, diva, right? And we have that whole boxed understanding of diva, right? Is it, I would go into organizations and, just because I was all by myself, I didn't have a brand to be backed by. I didn't have a designation to be backed by. It was just me alone plunging into uncharted territory. I would go and walk into organizations and see if the HR was available or if the DNI guys were available or whatever. I was literally shooed off from the counters itself saying that, madam, we don't want to do a ramp walk for women at work. आप ये diva program, we don't want to do a ramp walk. And so many people told me that, you know what, listen, you're talking leadership. How are you talking diva, right? Diva is glamour, diva is this. I was very determined that I wanted to give diva a definition of a woman feeling glamorous enough about herself, bases her credibility, bases her potential, bases what she brings to the table, bases all the skills that she brings to the table unapologetically. And it's been an 8-year journey, but today we've just concluded with a global summit, which had Sherry Blair, Mohandas Pai, Abhinav Bindra, Gul Panag, Rajita Kulkarni, all coming and talking about leadership on a corporate diva platform, right? So if you believe in something, right? I'm not saying be rigid, but I'm saying that if you believe in something, and if you've heard others and you're still stuck to that, then hold on to that. Hold on to that with all your grit, all your dedication, all your perseverance, everything that you have. Because if you believe in it, it will fall in place. You know. My second thing with challenges is I said that, I've been a person who believes that impact can happen only in an offline scenario. In a, I because I'm a lover of reading body languages. I pick up cues of, the vibes of people that you talk with, the energies and all of that. So my initial 5-6 years of corporate diva were absolutely with women who were selectively brought on board and went through a transformation journey, which was completely offline. Now, after Bangalore and we had established our presence in Delhi, we were in 2020 supposed to launch our Mumbai and Hyderabad presence, right? And Mumbai was in the pipeline. I had already gone to Mumbai, networked there, worked, and spoken to a couple of people and all of that. And Hyderabad had to happen. And then came the pandemic. So everything came to a standstill. And what is also important is that when you're hit with adversity, when you're hit with something which is completely poles apart from what you think, right? Go by your gut feel and act. So I went back to the team and I said that, guys, what do we do? As I said, I'm a lover of offline. To me, I can't see impact happening in an online scenario. But It's a pandemic. We don't know till when it's going to be. And collectively, we came up with a decision which we executed in a week, 10 days time, where we said that, all right, we'll launch the Corporate Diva cohort online. And I was literally keeping my fingers crossed. I said, what impact on Zoom? Bhagwan bharose, right? But then what happened was, in the first cohort itself, when we launched our online registrations, once, of course, it was hugely economical for everybody because of the fact that there were no more fancy logistics involved, right? Which would have been in an online scenario. Secondly, it suddenly gave access to the people across the globe. So in our first online cohort itself, we got international participation. We had people logging in from the US who actually stayed up against their clock because we were doing everything on IST, but wanted to be a part of this impact journey. And in the year of 2020, we landed up doing much more work than what we collectively did for the past 2 years. So that was a personal learning for myself as well. When you're saying challenging, it was a personal learning that I was trying to be very, boxed in my thinking that impact can happen only in an offline scenario. But no, we were using technology to our benefit, but we were still interacting with human beings. And it was definitely a human to human connect, which is what led us to have 5 cohorts, one after the other in the year of 2020. And all of them online. And we launched, a 3-month program as well, which is on the second edition of its functioning. So much happened. And the biggest takeaway was today when I sit back and just analyze the last 14 months, right? Last year, 2020, January, CD was in Bangalore and Delhi, and we were getting into 2 more cities, Mumbai and Hyderabad. 14 months later, we today proudly say have a presence in 12 countries across the globe.
Wow.
And that is just that one decision to pivot online, with a risk factor being that if it doesn't work, we will still sit back and wait for the pandemic times to get over. But we mustn't let this chance go from our hands. Let's try to see a silver lining to the adversity. Let's try to find an opportunity in the adversity and be ready to take that risk. And we were ready to fall flat, right? But I myself today am amazed with what has happened in the past. It's like a whirlwind, and for the better. And it was just that one decision.
And possibly that intent to make it work.
Absolutely. See, intent is something I've always given 110% guarantee on, right? I've always had the intent very clear. Impact is my intent. One talks about turnovers, one talks about XYZ logistics of a business, right? I think they all come later. The very pure intent of making that difference, the very pure intent of creating that impact, to not let any woman professional feel as lonely as what I was when I needed help, is the whole ethos behind this ecosystem that one has created. And gladly now, doing our iota of contribution towards creating that dent of providing a support system, providing an upskilling system for a woman professional at work. And with the progress that I see, no doubt that, we are now working on international cohorts launching for different countries in their respective time zones. So people don't have to kind of stay awake all night.
Yeah, lovely. And then, Dipika, in one of our conversations, you also spoke about your 3 anchors. These anchors actually, they could actually hold you together in this journey. So would you like to talk about these 3 anchors here with our audience?
Absolutely. And I think if I have to say that, there's a Hindi mein kehte na, nichod of all these years, right? 3 things that have been my extract from a 2-decade-long journey, which boils down to 3 things that I live my life with. The first one being shukr, which today we call as gratitude, and an attitude of gratitude and things like that. Trust you me, the pandemic also taught us that you're alive, it's worth paying gratitude for. No matter how good, how bad the situation that anyone is at any point of their time, there are two ways of looking at it. Either criticize and go down further deep into the dump, or come to a space of gratitude and you feel uplifted that things could have been worse, but I'm still better off. So every single day when I get up, I'm not a very religious person. I, you know, I don't have very scheduled things, tasks to be done in terms of my expression of gratitude. The only thing that I do is when I wake up in the morning is with one hand on my heart saying, thank you. And before I go to bed, no matter how trash the day would have been, at least I got to experience that day. I took away learnings from that day, and that I'm going to bed alive, and when I wake up alive. We undervalue our presence. We undervalue our being. We start giving importance to so many things that are very materialistic in nature. I didn't get this. I didn't get that promotion. I didn't get that job. I didn't get, my deal didn't turn out well. Or I think I've been overlooked, or somebody else has taken that opportunity. All of these things, if you take a bigger picture, all of these things can be duplicated and can come back to you in life. If one designation or promotion has gone back, you can still strive hard to get that, and you will reach a point where you will be in a position to get that back. If you're looking for any particular brand association or aiming for a job in a particular organization, you, if not this time, you will get a second chance to reapply and give it another shot. But you will never get a second chance for your own self. Every moment that passes by is the clock ticking. So you've got to be grateful for the clock ticking and not coming to a stop. So shukr. Second, I've learned it the hard way because it wasn't something that came natural to me, was sabr, perseverance. As I said in the start of the session as well, give time some time. We always want to be ahead of time. We always want to be pre-planned. I personally am was a very structured person. So I had my list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that list had to be completed in a particular manner. There wasn't a plan B, there wasn't a backup. It was what it was. But one has got to learn that things, I can say that with confidence, will not always happen your way. So you've got to learn to persevere and try different modalities. I'm not saying that, change your goal or change your focus from your goal, but be open to, that movie came, Love You Zindagi, where Shah Rukh Khan tells Alia Bhatt to kind of, sit on different chairs and then find out which chair is most comfortable for her, right?
Yeah.
Why don't we do that with life as well? The idea is comfort, right? The idea was sitting comfortably on a chair. But you do have to try different modalities or different ways or different chairs to find that one particular chair which today is comfortable for you. So be in that, but be open to the fact that you could get a better. So that's where evolution comes into place, that you will evolve. And what is great for you today may be just about average for you tomorrow. And that's where you aspire to evolve and grow. So sabr is the next thing, that persevere with patience. And the third thing is, every time I'm overwhelmed with things not going supposedly right, I'd say not going my way, right? I've always sat back and surrendered and I said, Sab tera. There is a bigger power. When you're doing what you've got to do to your best and it is not translating, with experience today, I can say, be rest assured that it's not translating for your best. Do not mistrust that power. That power is a huge guiding force in our lives. We often underestimate that. And I was reading Rachita Kulkarni's book, The Unknown Edge, and it had a beautiful line in that which said that you know, uh, followers don't follow God. It is God that follows followers because he loves his people. And that's where this thing of, just surrender. There is a bigger force. We cannot physically, emotionally, mentally, or whatever, we do not have those supreme powers to have everything as per what we want them to be. And when things get very overwhelming, when you feel that you're being pulled in different directions, that is the time to step back, take a deep breath, and surrender. And you will be guided to. And that's something I can literally write and give you, that you will be guided to the path that you belong to. May not have been the path that you chose to, but it is going to be where you belong to. So, Shukr, Sab Tera, and Sabr. These are three principles of my life that I live by, I swear by, and I can kind of say with any amount of any degree of assurance that you want, whether they work or not, they do.
Wow. Wow. And it's so empowering. So it's almost like saying that, somebody is watching you, like, somebody is watching your back, and just with that little effort, you're actually in a position to do so much more, just knowing that there is support available, and there is that guidance and wisdom available along the journey. So loved that. Awesome. So we'll just take a quick pause here and really ask our audience if they have anything to ask Dipika, or if something has come up for you, some thoughts have come up for you which you would want to share with all of us here. Feel free to unmute yourself. We would love to hear your thoughts. Anything that resonated with you. Hi, Rajvi. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Am I audible?
Yes, now you are.
So, good evening to both of you. So, to Dipika ma'am, I would like to say a very big thank you. Like how she started from communication, like how communication is the core thing. Unless it is in your mind, like building up a big story and just communicating and solving out the problem, and how she shared the initial journey of corporate diva, and it was very insightful, and how beautifully everything was explained by her, and how it is not just materialism, it is also your self analysis. It was very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajvi. Trust you me, uh, what I share here today is all life skills. And that's why they're called life skills, is because it is only the university of life that teaches you. These are skills that you cannot gather from any academic universities or any place of study. These are things that you learn from life. So be open to the university of life. There's tons of learning, and it doesn't give you a certificate, right? But ठीक है, उतना माफ कर सकते हैं that you don't get a stamp of qualifying the journey of life, but you learn a lot from it.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, ma'am. This is Alka from the side. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Absolutely, Alka. Hi.
Yeah. Good evening, ma'am, and thank you, ma'am. As you said, we are the CEO of our life, and communication with clarity is very important. But sometimes it's happen that when you communicate with clarity, there comes time that you don't get the right kind of people to understand that, and somehow you go back to that building your shield around yourself. It happens. So how to know that what kind of people and how they will be right, and what right kind of team we need in our life. How to know that, because as a young person, we are not that much familiar with the world around us. So how to generalize that, if you can say something about it?
Very valid question, Alka. Like you rightly said, that it's important to have the right team around you, the people who listen to you, who understand you. But my thing is, Alka, that often we communicate not what we want to communicate, no matter how much clarity we have, unless we have self-awareness along with it. We communicate by wanting to answer somebody else on the other side, right? So let's say we kind of take cues on, when I'm saying something, what is the other person reacting, what is the response and all of that. And then we kind of tweak our communication accordingly, right?
Yeah.
I think, and growing up, even when I had my idea of corporate diva or whatever, I was always told, shh, don't tell anybody, people will steal the idea. And, don't show your vulnerability, show yourself as strong, and all of that. And we get a lot of this, culturally as well, that you've always got to be smiling and strong in front of the others. You can crumble at the back end. But I've walked life slightly differently. I walked life with complete ownership of my authentic self. Because I can't run away from that, right? I can't run away from being from my authenticity. Why must I be putting that behind curtains and put up a facade or put up a mask just because I want to please somebody or want to make somebody understand? You know, I think the one pandemic that we've been grappling with, COVID definitely is whatever it is, but this log kya kahenge pandemic, right? We keep
Yeah.
on evaluating that if I say this, what will they think? What will they feel? How will they react? Whom are you saying things for? You're saying things to communicate yourself. So communicate with authenticity. Don't be shy about your vulnerability. Don't be shy about the fact that you admit to your senior saying that I don't know this, but I will be happy to learn it. You cannot be an encyclopedia all the time. You may be a subject matter expert in one particular thing, but there are 100 things that, like, let's say you ask me anything about IT. I am zilch in it, right? So no one person can have all answers ready with them. So as long as with authenticity you communicate that this is what I have, but I'm open to learning, and I may not have much knowledge in this space, but I will go back and do my homework. That is one thing. Second is when you say that, I don't want to communicate my vulnerability because people will take me as weak. Or I don't want to communicate an idea. And especially when you're young, you get this that, no, I don't want to I don't want to share my idea with anybody. What if they snatch it away and build it and whatever? On that thing, there is one thing again that I hold very closely to my heart is that, the story of the bee, where somebody comes up to the bee and asks her that, don't you feel bad that you do all the running around from flower to flower, collecting nectar, putting it in your place, and putting it all together and getting the honey ready, and you have all these people who just come up and take your comb and extract the honey and sell it and make great numbers and great businesses. And to that the honeybee replies that they can make great businesses, they can take away my efforts and make them theirs, but they still need to come back to me for the art of making honey. And that's something that they cannot take away from me. So no matter who you are, where you are in the world, tons, trillions, billions of population that we have, we've been born up with that competitiveness that you've got to compete. I'd say that, trust you me, there is no competition to yourself. Because until AI clones somebody and puts that somebody in front of you, right, is where you can get a slight sense of competition, but that also is a duplicate copy of you, right? There isn't a second original copy like you, no matter how great a population that we are living in. So there is something unique that you bring to the table. All you've got to do is identify that in yourself and own it unapologetically, communicate it unapologetically. Don't shy away from sharing your vulnerability or your learning scope, and do not tailor make answers for somebody else. You honestly answer for yourself. Beyond that, people, how they perceive it, you cannot blame them for that, because nobody's lived the life that you have. Nobody's walked in the shoes that you have, right? People can empathize by saying, oh, I understand the shoe hurts, right? but it is only you who knows where the shoe exactly hurts. Nobody can take that knowledge away from you. So you've got to own it and just be authentically yourself.
Yes, ma'am, you have well said that, let the uniqueness be your own. Don't, try. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm not saying that get into a, very egocentric zone that the world revolves around you. But at the same time, treat yourself. There's a beautiful saying, again, I'm a lover of words, so I'm going to use that, it's not the, a drop in the ocean. It's always the ocean in a drop. And it is those oceans in a drop that makes a big ocean flow. So don't underestimate the power of self. And at a younger age, to me also, these were all words, these were all cliches, these were all great proverbs to know. But when you live a life a little beyond, right, you realize that these things actually make sense, because you come to a zone of self-awareness, you come to a zone of self-acceptance, and you come to a zone of completely being yourself unapologetically, because you're not out there to please anybody but your own self. And there you've got to be authentic. There's no other way out.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, do we have any other thoughts, any other questions for Dipika? It's a small group, so we can actually be a little more informal. And if anything has come up for you, even as a thought or a reflection, do feel free to share.
Or even their concerns, anything that you're struggling with,
Yeah.
where you think that, this is something that I'm struggling with. And maybe, I could suggest something, advise something there. So just be, with me, it's always it's a very safe zone. I'm nobody to judge you. I'm nobody to, kind of evaluate you. So just take this opportunity to just speak your heart out if there's anything that's in your mind. So if that's not coming up, I'm going to ask you guys one thing, right? How many times have you felt that, am I good enough for yourself? How many times have you looked at somebody else and said that, oh, she's so lucky, or he's so lucky, he has it all, and I'm not good enough? Have there been opportunities where you've said that to yourself? You can put on the chat box. Many times. Rajvi? Yeah. Anybody else who's felt that they're not good enough? Well, so for you, Rajvi, I'm going to share something which I keep on my desk all the time. Right?
Sorry to interrupt, but it's not like always like, am I good? It's like when you start comparing, like they are doing so good things, like where am I? Though you're satisfied, like whatever you're doing, but you're like, oh my God, they are so good at this. Why am I not there?
So one thing is that don't ever compare yourself with anybody. As I said, we all have different journeys. We all walk different paths, and it all balances out at the end of the day. Like they say that, at the end of the race, if you're running that rat race, at the end of the race, you're still a rat, right? So don't give that power to anybody. And here's something that I personally put on my desk, which I'm going to share with all of you. And I don't know if you can read it, right? It says, I am enough exactly the way I am. Like I was sharing with Alka, that anytime in self-doubt, anytime I feel that am I ready? Am I not good enough? Or can I do it? Can't I do it? All those questions come. I keep this posted right in front of my desk, which tells me every time I'm overwhelmed or something, I say that I am good enough just the way I am. There are skills that I bring to the table. There is authenticity. If there's nothing else, if there is authenticity that I bring to the table, and that's one superpower that I carry with me. So Just believe in yourself. Competition, no competition, that shouldn't bother. Yes, looking around is great for your evolution, great for learning best practices, great for, kind of improvisation. But competition is never good to negate yourself, to put yourself down, because you never know who's looking up to you, right? And saying that you have so much, right? Maybe the college that you are in, somebody must have burnt the midnight oil to be there and yet hasn't been able to be there. The jobs that you get tomorrow, your internships that you get tomorrow, maybe some of you turn out to be entrepreneurs or whatever. Wherever you are, you will always have the choice to either look up and say, oh my God, I haven't achieved anything, or look down and say, oh my God, I've achieved quite a lot. And when you get there, I'm not saying saturate there, right? It's again one of my self-created saying, which I keep on saying to myself, that life is always and should always be WIP, which is work in progress, until finally it is RIP. So movement is important. Keep working towards evolution, keep evolving yourself, embrace what you can learn from people around. But whenever you feel how good enough am I or not, keep the post-it handy and say, I am good enough the way I am. And these help, again, being a youngster, I would have never believed in all this. But having traveled the road, I believe in certain things that when you write them down on a piece of paper and put it on your desk, they act as gentle reminders when you really need them. Because you can't plan and say, okay, in 2 hours, I will not feel good enough. That's when I will grab my diary and bring it out, right? It could be any moment. And whenever that moment, have a reassurance in front of yourself. You've got to be your own CEO, right? You've got to pick yourself up. You have to fly.
So, a couple of sessions ago, somebody actually asked a question that how powerful are these affirmations, right? And in that session, we actually discussed the whole idea of having affirmations combined or supplemented with appropriate action. And today we are actually talking about that once again, that, there was an intent, there was perseverance, there was action to the extent that, when you said that you were actually not allowed inside some corporates because they thought that, you're actually running a fashion show, but there was action around it, that you worked on it, and, combined with this particular lovely affirmation that you put up for yourself, I think all put together, it's a powerful journey.
Again, I'm not too sure about how affirmations work or not. I take it more as communication, and communication to my authentic self. I'll give you another one posted right here. And this I didn't even reckon with it, but this says Vision 2021, go global. Right? And this was just this year in January, where I just said that, CD has to go global. And that was probably my sense because, as I said, we pivoted online and we had something, but there wasn't a formal way where I could say that, yes, we've started a journey towards going global. And then I wasn't aware of, but I had parallelly started work on the global summit, right? And that was going on. The year had started, and if I just, at the start of the year, I said, okay, like that posted that I'm enough the way I am. So I'm just going to put this posted that this year my ambition is going to be to make CD go global. And I just, you saw that, right? It just said that go global. And the way the summit shaped up, again, the intent was right. I wanted to just create a global impact. The way the summit shaped up with the dignitaries along, we had 12 experts or 21 experts coming from 12 countries across the globe, right? And post the summit, we have people writing into us where already we're just 4 days of the summit. It happened last weekend. We're already in talks with 3 countries to launch cohorts specific to their time zones and their requirements. So what I'm saying is, yes, the technical term to this could be affirmations, but to me, just jot down what is that one gut feel that you get from within. What is that one thing that you're communicating to yourself that you want to achieve? And there can't be a purer communication than that, right? Because you don't lie to yourself. You can't lie to yourself, right? And jot that down and place it. And it's not that every day, I have to light an agarbatti, do an aarti of that and matha take and then start my day that, okay, today I will go global. It is just that it becomes a part of your unconscious environment, right? And then you work towards it and the universe conspires towards making you work towards it and achieve what was a very pure promise to self. And it's always work in progress, right? But these things work. Just a little note for yourself works.
Lovely. Okay, so guys, any last questions before we close the session today or thoughts? All right, so Dipika, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your journey with all of us, and thank you for actually inspiring that trust that it's okay to be in midst of chaos. Sometimes you find out your way through that chaos, and that's so reassuring because most of us actually crumble. So when the chaos happens, we start doubting our own selves. We start kind of so many students talk to us today, and they talk about the fact that placement nahi hua, right company mein placement nahi hua, and that's like the end of the world. So one big takeaway for me, at least personally, is nothing is end of the world till you choose to actually make it the end of the world for yourself. There are always those options available. Yeah.
True, Meenu. I mean, I can tell you as a youth, I grabbed on to the first opportunity that came to me for campus placement, and great brand and peanuts in terms of salary or whatever, because one wanted ki, bachpan se sikha hai ki, financially independent, right? My initial years, today looking back, I could have invested slightly more in a little more introspection, a little more deep dive into. Having said that, of course, the journey led me to a way where I could find my way, and all of that happened. But I agree with you that let not anybody, and it's very tough in that age, in that stage, because all you're doing is you're comparing salaries, you're comparing, which brand have you got a placement from and who's given you a placement, and that's the peer group that's talking. But don't be in a rush. Don't underestimate the power of self. Evaluate. I'm not saying that become too pricey and become too this thing that no, I will just take this only and I will not take that or whatever. But do a thorough evaluation of what you're doing, and this must always be a big takeaway for you, right? The second is, before I leave, is that often I come across a lot of people saying that, oh, I'm so lucky I got into this organization. Oh, she's so lucky she got into that organization. This whole thing of luck that comes in, right? But it's honestly not luck. The employer has seen credibility, has seen potential, and has negotiated well with you to get that credibility, that potential at a cost point which is good for them. So they're lucky to get you, right? You have to be on the journey of learning and always be in cognizance of the fact that you do bring something to the table, and that is why you are there. I can't just walk on the road and say, okay, I'm lucky today, so I will not be kicked by any scooter wala or any bus or whatever. I can't walk blindly on the road, right? When I'm crossing the road, I do need to look left and right and then cross the road. So there is very little factor of luck. Yes, it is a factor sometimes, but that should not make you undervalue your self-worth. And always be sure and, come from a very strong foundation of your homework being done really well. So you've got to have expertise in whatever you do. When I say expertise, at least you should have dedicatedly studied what you need to study at whatever time and situation that you're in. But beyond that, have the faith that you are bringing something credible to the table, which is why the other person has reached out and employed you. It's They've not done you a favor, and neither are you doing them a favor by going there. It's a win-win. So identify the what's in it for me aspect and have it as a win-win, a two-way traffic kind of a situation. It's never one-sided.
Thank you for summing it up so beautifully, Dipika, and really honored today to have you in this space and talking to you. And there are so many lessons that, I'm sure everybody would have taken out, whatever would have been relevant to them. And I could see stories evolving in each stage of your life. And I'm sure everybody would have taken their own, stories from this particular session. So really thankful for that.
My pleasure. And a pleasure interacting. Very relevant questions, Minu. Thanks a lot. Took me down the memory lane as well. And if in any way I could serve you or the students in future, we'll be happy to. I'm active on LinkedIn, so anybody who wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can take the credentials from Minu and connect with me. And just make, it's not that bad a world out there, trust you me. Just at the moment you're in good comfort with yourself and awareness of your own self, things can't be that bad. And just walk life in a way where to some extent you know where you are, what you're doing, but to some extent just surrender to a bigger power. And so all of these technical terms of networking and go out of the way and grab opportunities and all, go easy on yourself, develop yourself. Opportunities will come. Keep your eyes, ears, and antennas open. Leverage them, but don't underestimate or don't not put priority on self. If you keep yourself awareness high, if you invest in yourself, if you prioritize your health, your well-being, be holistic about yourself, that'll give you clarity, and that will be a guiding light in your way forward. Thanks for having me here. A pleasure interacting with all of you. Thanks for the opportunity, Minu.